Hello and good evening. I'm Dr. Katherine Horton, and today I welcome you to the news analysis. Before we start, let me just quickly check that you can hear me. Hello and good evening. Yes, that sounds good. Okay, so as I've already explained, I've switched off the chat because I found that the troll activity was much more prolific than the actual genuine commenting. But feel free to comment below the video because that's still an option and I'm not censoring that. So let's get started. Today is completely packed with news from around the world, and I try to cluster the news into countries and continents. And I would like to get started, but actually before I do, I have promised somebody that I will stress the importance of legal dictionaries. So it is very, very important that we understand how the judiciary works and what sort of language they're using. And there is a genuine part to this, which is just all the parties agreeing to certain words meaning the same thing. Okay, this is the basis of the entire legal system, right? But of course, as we know, the legal language has been taken a bit, it has been hijacked with doublespeak and with the cartel's secret code, so that words sometimes don't mean what we do think that they mean, but also language changes. And what's very interesting is that this person pointed out to me the importance of getting legal dictionaries from before the 1970s. And this person said that actually there was a degradation in the legal dictionaries, and gave me an example whereby the dictionaries from before the 1970s, and he sent me one from the 19th century, is much denser and has a lot more explanation and a lot more detail than the modern day legal dictionaries. Now, if you can get hold of one, and I also encourage you to, use one for the US and a separate one for the UK, because there are sometimes small differences. But if you can get hold of these legal dictionaries, it is very, very good if you just go through and look up the words that might apply to your case and see what's in there. So this is also a very important exercise to do. And one very famous dictionary that you can use, let me just share my screen, is, okay, so here we are, is this one here. It's Black's Law Dictionary, and the one copy I have here, it says the definitions of terms and phrases of American and English jurisprudence, ancient and modern. Okay, so this was written by Mr. Black, and this particular edition, it's the revised 4th edition, and it's from 1968. Okay, so when you flick through, you can see that there's a lot of detail here. But remember, you just have to read the key words, and many of them will not apply to you. And if you just go through and highlight the words that might be relevant for your court case, you will already have a very good foundation in all this. I mean, getting the language right is the first step. Now, what I wanted to say about legal dictionaries is that I am fully aware that the US has been hijacked, in that in the US, for example, oops, by the way, I have to check if the camera is switching back okay. What's happening in the background is that YouTube will discontinue the Google Hangouts, and what they typically do is they degrade it bit by bit to encourage you to change, and this is what's going on. But anyway, so I am aware that the legal system has been hijacked, and for example, in the United States, you are all under admiralty law, and people try to trick you when you go into a court of law. And this person who talked to me about the legal dictionaries also sent me an image of the, I think it was the court of law in Florida. Okay, and I have to look up where exactly this court of law was, but from above you can see it's a ship. Okay, I will maybe bring it up next time, this image. But if you look at Google Maps, you can see that it actually has the shape of a ship. And that's not by accident, okay? Because the entire trick is that, as I understand it, not being a lawyer, is that everybody in the United States is considered to be lost at sea, okay? And then you're just on some sort of trust fund, and, you lose most of your rights and you can be screwed over, especially if you don't realize that this is the legal architecture that your cases are being dealt with, and so on. So this is part of the huge centuries-old, fraud that the Freemasons and the Vatican crime cartel and the Illuminati, right, all the same thing, have been pulling on the non-insiders, right? And now this is all being broken up. Now, if you want to have further evidence that the US courts are under admiralty law, you don't just have this one ship-shaped, courthouse in the US. You also have the flag in every courthouse with a gold rim. And as I understand, the gold rim indicates that this is admiralty law. So why would you have in every single court case a special US flag and not the standard one, right? So that's another indication. And there are many, many other hints. But, the biggest hint is when you keep losing your cases and you don't understand why. And then, when you read up, you realize, oh, I've been screwed over from the get-go ever since I walked into the court and stated my name, So anyway, so this is a very, very big topic. But remember that there are always ways around that. So the common law and the law of the land is one of them. And this is what Kevin Annett is talking about. But this is also what many people are talking about in the United Kingdom. And also, as a people, we are not just reliant on a handful of judges to bring judgment, but there are also grand juries. And in the US, there's a state where this is inscribed. It's part of their process, right? But you have the option of a common law everywhere, okay? And this is what is so important. Now, if you think about it, I understand, when you first consider, you were brought up to revere authority, maybe, you still think that government politicians and judges and police officers and intelligence officers are, have your best interest at heart, okay? If you're coming with that mindset, which I have to tell you is wrong, but if you come with that mindset, it is, it causes anxiety when you think, oh my God, suddenly people can just gang together and have a grand jury, right? And then trial anything. Well, yeah, this is, concerning, but still they have to stick to the law. There are, the common law has a rule book. They can't just decide to go and kill everybody, right? That wouldn't be, it wouldn't be a lawful grand jury, right? And then those decisions can, of course, be toppled and, annulled and all that. But when you think about it in terms of systems and you add up the number of judges in a country, okay, you would have, for example, the UK with millions of people and only thousands of judges. So it means that you have this big tapering. And then when you go from the High Court to the Court of Appeal, you get an even more drastic tapering. And then when you get to the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom, you end up with 11 to 15 people, right? I mean, the number fluctuates a bit, but it's that order of magnitude. Now, should 60 million British people be dependent on 15 guys and girls, and then as it is in the United Kingdom, those guys and girls, bless their heart, are typically also above 60, right? In France, for example, that's not the case. There you have also very young judges, and being a judge is a career. But in the UK, being a judge is almost like an award. Yeah, we could see you busted your ass for decades on end, and here you are, now you're welcome to the Supreme Court. So, right, I mean, this is how it is in the UK, and these expectation is that a judge would be first in the High Court, then the Court of Appeal, and then maybe the Supreme Court. And this is usually how it goes, apart from if you're my main stalker, which is Lord Sumption, who basically leapfrogged the entire judiciary and went from being a barrister to the Supreme Court. Literally, a few weeks after he started stalking me. Could I possibly be his control file? Very likely. But unless you have something quite so extraordinary, right, the expectation in the UK is that you go through the system. Okay. But then it comes down to, the top tier of decision making being all maybe in their 60s and 70s, which is fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But then again, there might be a change in society, right? And maybe those opinions are out of date. Or maybe those people are still stuck with newspapers and don't really use the internet that much, which would lead to the fact that they would be brainwashed by the crime cartels' media outlets, which they all own. And these people would never, ever watch a YouTube video showing them that chemtrails are killing us all, right? So there are all these problems. which just comes from the selection, which could be age, which is what this is, which is why I focused on it. But I don't have a problem in principle with people above 60 and 70. Sometimes they are less brainwashed and their brains are less fluorided than the young people, you know, so that's also to be considered. But, you know, if you think about a society of 60 million people or 65 or how many Brits there are, do you really want to make your lasting decisions dependent on 15, right? Is that a good idea? Because buying 15 people or threatening or brainwashing 15 people, it is so easy that the intelligence agencies do that literally every day as part of their little social experiments. So when we think about it like that, actually, it is very scary what we have right now. And there are court decisions, for example, the bank charges case in the United Kingdom, that was amazing. It was basically signing off on the asset stripping of 60 million British people in favor of the banks. It was the first Supreme Court judgment I read, and the most shocking, right? Well, actually, no, it's not the most shocking. Since then, they've added to that. But anyway, you get the idea, right? Now, if 60 million people could have decided the bank charges case, right? For those who are not from Britain, the bank charges case was basically blessing the ludicrous, frankly, out of their mind sort of bank charges the banks were levying on maybe short and small overdrafts. I mean, I fell victim of this when I first used a cheque in the UK. So continental Europe doesn't really use cheques anymore and hasn't been since, I think, the Second World War. So I arrived in Oxford, you know, all very young, and suddenly I had to pay my college fee with a check. I was like, okay, I have to first go to the library and look up some 19th century book on how to deal with these checks. But anyway, so then, you know, there's a short time delay because these checks are not cleared like a normal bank, you know, thing. And there was a bit of a hiccup. And in the end, I think I was overdrawn by £5 or something like that. It was less than £5, you know. So I ended up being overdrawn for £5, I think, for 2 days. And then a new set of money was transferred from my parents, you know, from Germany, as I was an undergraduate. And then for those £5, the bank charged me £30. And then you think, hang on, if you calculate the annual equivalent interest on, you know, which would add up £30 if you go overdrawn by £5 for 2 days. I can't calculate it in my head how much that is, but it's a lot, right? It's one of these interests that are in the thousands and thousands of percent. Now, I just paid the £30 thinking, yeah, you know, thinking 4-letter words. But then later on, there was this court case, okay, and then I think you know, I was very interested because I also read in the news that not everybody was just going over by £5, but maybe 200 and so on. And these fees would be whacked on sometimes every day and would end up absolutely staggering. So basically, even though usury used to be outlawed back in the medieval ages, then in the 20th century, you know, or rather the 21st century, when I was at university, the banks managed to bring it back in and asset strip people through the back door, but not calling it interest, but calling it an overdraft fee. But at the end of the day, you pay, oops, I think this is stalling. So I hope you guys can see me okay. I realized that the video stream is stalling, which doesn't really surprise me because I'm talking about the banks. I hope you guys can see me. Yeah, I can see the broadcast is stalling, so I hope it picks up. Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, so anyway, so this is the sort of games these people are playing, okay? And actually, one oh dear, this is going to be very, very stressful. But anyway, I hope it works out okay. Anyway, I'll just continue and then I hope for the best. But anyway, bank charges, from the, you know, hiccup here in the broadcast, you can just tell that this is a thorn in the side because ultimately these overdraft fees were a way of asset stripping the British public to a degree that would have been absolutely illegal had they just called them interest. But nevertheless, it's a fee that you pay on money. Okay, I can tell that the broadcast is being stalled here at every sentence. But anyway, so this is how important it is. But anyway, so going back, so the Supreme Court decided that that was all a-okay. And, you know, these sort of charges pushed a lot of people into dire poverty, right? And I also found that because the Supreme Court judges are being paid, frankly, a stupendous amount of money, they are completely out of touch with the average income in the United Kingdom. So for them to hear that, oh, well, you know, somebody clocked up overdraft charges of £6,000, you know, because they were so, this is just what happened to them. They kept going overdrawn and, you know, then things added up and it's all spiraled out of control. You know, they just think, okay, £6,000, well, you know, it's tough, but you can survive. But actually, for a lot of people in the United Kingdom, where the average yearly salary, last time I checked, was £24,000, it is not survivable by any means, you know? Oh dear, I can tell that the broadcast has been stalled here. Okay. Right. I mean, this is okay. Let's change topic. I think I got my point across. And some people who own YouTube just got their knickers in a tremendous twist. So, okay, you got the idea. So it's not just it's not a good idea to leave everything to judges. We have to also think about this, you know, the system and having your common law courts is a way of going around those judges. Having a grand jury of your peers. I'm pretty sure if a grand jury of the average, you know, UK person would have decided the bank charges case, this is not how it would have come out, because the average salary is something like £25,000, and the sort of stuff and frankly criminality that we were dealing with in the banks was just absolutely out of order. But anyway, that's for another day. So you know, legal stuff, legal things matter. On this at this stage, I also would like to remind everybody to please fill out an affidavit survey if you are a victim. I know it takes a long time, but frankly, writing your court case will take an even longer time, and that's the first entry into it, okay? And as I said, I can't make bricks without clay, so I can only quote crimes that have been certified in writing, okay? So this is why it's so important. Now, the other thing I would like to draw your attention to is a research by a lady that's very, very important. And it's particularly important for all those of you who are suffering from V2K. Now, I have this problem. Computer is being stalled by remote control, which is massively, massively annoying. I just cannot. Okay. Sorry, let me just. Ah, dear. Okay. Sorry, this is now, people are seriously playing with my computer now. I cannot switch tabs on the browser windows that I use to open everything that we need to talk about. Is this still frozen over? Oh gosh. Okay, I can't actually see you guys. I can't tell if this is connecting or not. I will just wait for a moment. Okay, so I hope you guys can hear me. So this is what I mean with the broadcast being gradually degraded. Let me just do a check if it's actually arriving okay. Talk about. Is this still frozen over? Oh, gosh. Yeah, okay. So it sounds like, okay, I can't. Okay, it sounds like you guys can hear me, but this is terrible. So this is really, really terrible. This is definitely somebody launching a process here on my computer and absolutely hogging the processing power. This is absolutely not okay. Oh, God. All right. All right. Let me just, okay, just give me 2 minutes because I have a lot of very important stuff to talk about today. And I am trying to clear the background of all the other processes, which might actually be a pipe dream. Okay, anyway, let's just continue. Let's hope for the best. I will just continue with this, and you can either hear me or you can't. Maybe it's, being stalled every couple of seconds. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, yes, this is how ridiculous it is. Okay, so the NSA is owned wholesale by the banking crime cartel. And as soon as you criticize the banks for their shocking criminality and for the fact that they are transnational criminal organizations, they start taking your YouTube video down. Okay, so this is what's happening here. But anyway, let's just press on. If the video comes out shit, I will just retake it. So if my screen sharing works, is this working? I can't tell if this is working or not. I really can't tell if this is working or not. This is terrible. Okay, this is... Hang on.